Beef. It's What's for Dinner with Fearless. And we are now to beef number 39. And for many of you, you won't be super aware of this guy, but we have a pretty legitimate beef. His name's Charles Robinson, number 39 in beef. So Charles Robinson is a sports writer, longtime sports writer. I think he may still be with Yahoo Sports, but maybe not. He made his reputation while at Yahoo Sports. And at some point in the 2000s, if you guys remember this, the University of Miami football team got in a big scandal. And Charles Robinson was the leader of that scandal. He had interviewed a guy named Nevin Shapiro. Nevin Shapiro was a Miami booster and a multimillionaire who got caught up in a Ponzi scheme or was accused of being the leader of a Ponzi scheme. And so Charles Robinson interviewed Nevin Shapiro, and Nevin Shapiro is incarcerated at this time, either awaiting trial or had already been convicted of this Ponzi scheme deal. And he talked Charles Robinson into doing a story about the Miami football program and all the money he spent on the Hurricanes football team. And this was a big, amazing story at Yahoo Sports. And this is back before name, image, and likeness. This is in the early 2000s, maybe 2010, 12. I can't remember the exact time frame, but around in that time. And I read the story and was like, this don't add up. And at that time, again, everybody's got a new perspective, but at the time, I was really the only sports writer calling out these journalists who were building their careers and building brands on doing these recruiting violation stories. And Yahoo Sports was the leader of this. Oh my God, this school gave this illegal benefit to this player or that player, and they should get this much penalty from the NCAA. I didn't like it. And see, everybody's caught religion. They don't understand who was actually there on the ground floor leading the fight against amateurism. Amateurism was a sham. And there was a guy named Jason Whitlock calling it out in real time. I'm a big fan of Dan Wetzel, but I got to throw his name in here because he and Charles Robinson worked in tandem at Yahoo Sports. These guys, you go look at a lot of these sports writers. There was Adrian Wojnarowski. Much of his brand early in his career was built off of college scandals. When I think he worked in Fresno. This is the way that these guys elevated themselves as reporters. They would do a story about some school that some player was getting illegal benefits, and everybody, oh my God, so Adrian Wojnarowski broke this story. Charles Robinson broke this story about illegal recruiting, and guys got a briefcase with $5,000 on it. Give them the death penalty. That's what happened here with Nevin Shapiro. He put a bunch of paperwork in front of Charles Robinson, and Charles Robinson wrote these stories about, I studied all these documents, thousands and thousands of pages, and Nevin Shapiro spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and this is the biggest scandal in the world, and Miami should get the death penalty. And all the media was selling this. All the media, oh my God, Charles Robinson's done it again. He's broken an amazing story, and Miami should get the death penalty. And little old me came in and called BS on all of it. Just called BS on all of it. Like, hey, we're taking the word of a guy convicted of this kind of Ponzi scheme, this kind of fraud. These guys, this story is not being told in context. And I started writing this for Fox Sports at the time. Like, this story is not being told in context. These dollar amounts of like, oh, he spent this much money, that much money. I go, have you ever been to Miami? You know how much more expensive it is to entertain someone in South Beach than it is in Lincoln, Nebraska? And so, yeah, these numbers sound incredible. Oh my God, he spent so much money. Sounds incredible until you've been to South Beach and tried to entertain yourself there, and then you put it in context and it's like, well, you can cut that in about 80%. You can slash that by 80% if it's down in Lincoln, Nebraska. And then I started asking the question like, Nevin Shapiro allegedly is supplying prostitutes and whores to the players, and there's an accusation that he funded an abortion or all this other kind of crazy stuff. And I'm like, hold on. So this guy's taking them out partying, drinking, supplying them with whores and prostitutes, but there's no mention of drugs. There's no one's bought coke, no one's bought weed, and I'm like, this story is not authentic. I've been to Miami. You put a bunch of young athletes and a bunch of escorts together, there's gonna be some weed and coke. Why isn't it in the story? And I started unpeeling the onion and showing people like, hey, this story, it's a Ponzi scheme. There's a bunch of numbers thrown out here to wow you, and there's a bunch, all these documents he read, but they don't want you to look at the details. That perhaps Nevin Shapiro is using Charles Robinson to create some story that gets the University of Miami in trouble that he can use to pressure powerful people in Miami, perhaps, maybe to spring him from jail. Maybe to take attention away. Maybe he can become a government informant because, again, there were prosecutors that were running around. This happened in Kansas City years ago. Some district attorney tried to criminalize. They put a guy named Myron Piggy in prison for recruiting violations. Go look it up. And there were attention-starved district attorneys, prosecutors, using this whole shamateurism scam to criminalize people and to put them in prison. I was like, Nevin Shapiro is trying to make himself valuable to someone. And so I called BS on all of it, and Charles Robinson was livid. Guy probably can't stand me to this day, because at some point, I started calling these guys slave catchers. And I did it very cleverly because Walter Byers, who ran and formulated and constructed the modern NCAA, he wrote a memoir. And Walter Byers is a conservative white man from Kansas. He wrote a memoir that he analogized the NCAA amateurism system as plantation slavery. He did this. Don't blame me. Walter Byers did this. And so I was like, and I would quote Walter Byers and what he said in his memoir, and I would say, so if this is true, and we all know this whole amateurism thing is a scam, and we need to move on from it, then the people that are squealing on the athletes, writing these stories, advancing their own careers, they gotta be slave catchers. And look what they did to Reggie Bush. They chopped off his foot. They took his Heisman Trophy away from him. That stung so bad. And Charles Robinson hated me. And the corporate, it's so funny. This is why these no one in the media likes Jason Whitlock. Because I've been calling BS on the BS they've been doing forever. And people said, oh, Jason only criticizes black people and black journalists. And I always say, have you ever talked to Charles Robinson? You ever talked to Mitch Albom? You ever talked to Mike Lupica? Have you ever talked to... I've been calling out the media the entire time. That's what I do. Black, white, whatever. You put some BS on the table and you got to sit around and go, oh man, I wonder if Whitlock is going to come after me. That's why nobody in the media likes me, because I've been going to war with them. That's why I have so much beef. And there's my Charles Robinson beef, number 39.